Hey guys, a wonderful day. So for today, we are going to be discussing and looking in detail for our speaking component. All right. Please bear in mind this speaking component is closely related to writing components because we are going to learn skills like brainstorming, how to write down proper sentences and how to speak proper sentences to gain different ideas from various aspects and to look at a bigger picture from a topic. Okay, questions can be as short as this, as what I'm showing you, and it can be longer than this. Usually, for speaking, the final word will be discussed, but for writing, it can be do you agree or disagree with the statement above, and so on. All right, now let's have a look at this question. Okay, this is not the complete question. As you guys know, in speaking component, there'll be 4 different candidates, and you guys will be given 4 different points. But in here, I'm giving you guys the topic first before we move on into the points given so that we can do a little bit of brainstorming in order for us to be able to answer the next questions. Okay, right. Let's have a look at the question. The question says, what, sorry, the question says, reducing is one of the 3R strategies. Discuss. Okay, as usual, our keywords will be reducing, 3R strategies. Okay, key points will be is 1. Why? Because we're only talking about 1, which is reducing from the 3 that we know. Okay? All right. Let's move on to our keywords. When we talk about reduce, we are also talking about to lessen or to minimize. Okay? To minimize, to decrease, to contract, mengecil, okay? Contract by number. We can also talk about to diminish in size, okay, to bring down or to lower. Okay, these are all the words that we can actually talk about. Now, when we want to talk about keywords, number 1, there's 2 strategies. Number 1, we can only talk about reduce, or we can directly relate it to reduce based on the topic 3R. Because this topic is quite short, you guys can do that also. Okay, but recommended is to do one by one. Okay, now why this is to increase your vocabularies and varieties of aspects that you guys think about. Okay, now when we talk about reducing, we are talking about all these things to make a number from big to small. Please bear that in mind. Okay, from big to small. Okay, we can reduce in a couple of aspects. Number 1, we can reduce in the sense of number. We can reduce in the sense of usage. These are the 2 main things that we guys can actually have a look. Number and usage. Okay, now let's move on to the next keyword. The next keyword will be 3R. Okay, 3R. What do we know about 3R? 3R is reduce. Number 2 is reuse. And number 3 is recycle. Okay, it's best for you guys to write down the 3R according to the question. That's why I wrote number 1 is reduce, because the question given reduce. If the question were to give me reuse, I'll write that as number 1 so that you guys know what you guys are talking about. Because in this question, we are only focusing on reduce. Write down the 3R. Then what you do? Cross out the rest too. But you still remember in your mind, we are talking about 3R. And we are only talking about one of the 3R. Okay, now 3R, not only about reduce, it is also a theme, THEME, a theme or a plan or a strategy, okay, which many countries okay, which many countries use. So even in Malaysia, we are using it, okay. Even in Malaysia, we are using this 3R concept. It's a concept, yeah. Not to forget, it's also a concept. Okay? Now, these are the things that you guys need to know about 3R. Next, let's have a look at strategies. So, this is when you ask all your questions. What kind of strategies? What kind of strategies? We are talking about 3R over here. Okay? They are focusing on what kind of strategies over here? We are talking about papers, petroleum, electricity, We are talking about glass. You know, you guys recycle your glass things. We can also talk about reducing the usage. Okay, we can also talk about reducing the usage of electricity, petroleum, paper, glasses, and so on. There's so many other things that you guys can reduce your usage. These are the main things, okay? Paper, petroleum, and electricity. These three things are the main thing. Okay, why do I say so? Because number one, petroleum is a non-renewable source. When we talk about petroleum, it's a non-renewable source. Number two, when we talk about electricity, we can talk about generating electricity and also the usage of electricity. Okay, we must reduce the usage of electricity because there's so many reasons that we will be talking about later on. Okay, next, paper. Why? We want to save the earth. There's every single year we will be celebrating Save the Earth Day, and so on. Why? Because the Earth Day, we will stop or off all of our lights and so on to celebrate Earth Day for 1 minute, which is for electricity purposes. Next, for paper, save the earth, plant a tree, and so on. All this stuff. Why? Because you want to save all the plants through saving or reducing the usage of paper. Okay, these are all the things that you guys need to know for your keywords. Next is one, which means we are focusing on one aspect only or one perspective. Okay, please bear that in mind. We're only talking about reducing. Okay, you guys know what are the informations over here. Okay, recommended for you guys to actually write down a couple of things over here. Okay, now this is a new thing that you guys going to be implementing into your brainstorming session, which is to write down facts that you guys know. You can write down any kind of facts that you guys know about or related to this topic. Okay, so now for 3R, I think you guys might know a couple of agencies and organizations or maybe statistics. Okay, we're gonna talk about agencies, NGOs, okay, governmental organizations also, and then we can talk about statistics. Okay, this will make and examples. Okay, this will make all your whole speaking and writing component much more solid. Okay, this is the main new thing. Okay, to increase this is to the way one of the ways that you can actually introduce facts, proper and correct facts, is to increase your reading. Okay, the more you read, the more you know. Now, let's move on to the points which is given. Okay, now let's have a look at these particular points in the speaking method. Okay, the first point given over here is reduce paper usage. Okay, what kind of thing that we can actually talk, or what are the aspects we can actually talk on reducing paper usage? Okay, look back at the question. Reducing is one of the 3R strategies discussed. So in the 3R strategies, we want to reduce paper usage. Now, they have given you the point. You have to ask why this point. I'll give some ideas. Now, first and foremost, I think reducing paper usage gives us some environmental benefits. Okay, I think this is quite clear because we can actually save a lot of trees. Okay, now you guys can see the connection between why did we do the brainstorming session over here and the point which is over here. It is almost the same. Okay, from one topic you can branch it up to so many things that even how many points come up, you can still ask why towards that point. Okay, you can save a lot of trees. So the moment you save a lot of trees, you can save the habitat of animals. We are okay. This is the first why. This is the second why. This is the third why. Okay? But remember, how many times you ask why is as important as how you relate it back to the topic. So make sure in your last sentence, do write down let's say, for example, hence reducing the usage of paper is very important to save the environment. So that is one of the technique for you guys to get back the connectivity between your point, no matter how much you elaborate, and the point given. Okay. Next, number two, we will be able to save our cost. Okay, it is as simple as this. The less paper we use, it will reduce cost for storage, toner, printing, labor, postage, packaging, and so on. There's so many uses of papers that you guys know. Put that knowledge into work right now. Okay? Now, instead of paper, you guys can include something else. You guys can maybe write down, instead of using this, you can easily use email. Now, we have so many in this 21st century. We have so many types of technologies for you guys to venture into instead of using so much of paper, which might make the habitat of animals be destroyed. Hence, we would not be able to save a lot of trees. Hence, the environment will be corrupted as much as it is. Okay, that is number two. Now, we can also reduce papers to make our life more efficient. Make our lives more efficient. Why do I say so? Okay, we have talked about technological advancement, right? Okay, we have talked about in this 21st century advancements. We are using so many types of technologies every single day. Okay, we can reduce the usage of paper by using electronic storage. You guys know your Google Drive, your mails, and so on, all this stuff. Okay, it can make our life more efficient the moment we pay attention to an alternative rather than a traditional method, which might cause the deterioration towards environment, humanity, and so on. Okay, always look at the alternatives that is always coming up every single day. In this era, it's the technology. All right, that is the first point. This point will be given. What you guys need to do is to think of two or three other sub points to support your point. Okay, next, B, reducing. Yes, but this time we're talking about plastic usage. All right. Okay, plastics usage is fine because every single time will be, the 3R, that rubbish bin that we guys throw plastic separately and so on, and then we were to use reduced amount of plastic cups. We turn it into paper cups, plastic bags, turn it into paper bags, and so on. Okay, those are one of the ways which we reduce plastic usage. Plastic straws, turn it into metal straws. Okay, now, first and foremost, what or how you can actually, or why reducing plastic usage? This is because overuse of plastic will cause pollution. Okay, now let's take a step back and have a look. Over here, we have looked at the bright side of everything. Okay, it can save us, save the environment, and so on. This side, we flip around on how we think. If we were to use plastic, it will cause, if we were to not use plastic, it will cause environmental benefit. But if we were to overuse plastic, it will cause pollution. Just flip around the mindset every single time you guys want to think in order to get better and more developed ideas from different point of views. Okay, those are the methods and techniques for you guys to brainstorm. Next, I think you guys know very well. Why? Because non-biodegradable. These issues has been going on. Usage of plastic, why? Causes pollution. Why? Because they are non-biodegradable. Okay? So it cannot decay. So when it can't decay, don't you think it will cause so much of pollution? Yes, it definitely will, because we cannot be eliminating them. And at one point, people will start burning all these plastics and so much of pollution will happen. We guys are actually polluting the environment by using or overusing the plastic. Okay, next, number two is that the making of plastic itself. Okay, this one you have to look at a different point. The making of plastic itself uses a lot, sorry, uses a lot of energy and Earth's resources. Okay, now before I move on, let's take an illustration. Okay, we take plastic bottles, for example, from producing the bottle to filling it with water to transporting it to stores and then to our home. Obviously, it requires a lot of energy compared to producing tap water, okay? Which means the plastic water bottle takes so much of energy and resources to be produced compared to tap water itself. Hence, to reduce plastic usage, one of the things that we can do is that we should boil our own drinking water instead of buying bottles of drinking water. Okay, some cities in America have passed a law to ban the sales of bottled water in their war against plastic. Okay, that is what we call adding facts onto your explanation. This will make your explanation much more interesting for the examiners to actually listen and comprehend towards the fact of giving you better and higher marks. Okay, now making plastic itself uses a lot of energy. I do understand sometimes it's quite difficult for us to flip around our mindset and aspect of thinking, but we guys can always try. Number one, we tried flipping it to the negative side. Number two, we tried flipping it into a business side, which means you have to look at a perspective of a producer till the consumer. Okay? Okay. Number three, we should use fewer plastic due to health hazard. Okay, you guys know what's hazard, right? Basically, all the dangers and so on. Okay, health hazard. Okay, I think it's quite common that everyone knows that plastic is made up of chemical compounds, yeah? Mixture of so many different types of chemical compounds. So now, when the plastic itself is exposed to heat or UV rays, all these chemical compounds will cause hazardous effect to our body. Let's say a plastic bottle has been left in our car for one day under the hot sun, and then you drink up that water. So much of chemical compounds will be reacting with the UV rays, which will cause hazardous effect to our body. Because why? We are drinking it. Okay, so these are the things that you guys can have a look at. We can also look at the health field, the economic field, the social field, and so on. All right, the environmental field. See over here, we have the environmental field, the economy field, the health field, the social field. Okay, all right, that is for the candidate B or the second point. Now, let's have a look at the third point. Reduce electricity usage. Okay, you guys know about renewable energy and non-renewable energy, right? We have learned this over and over again in science and so on. Renewable energy and non-renewable energy. Okay, electricity over here, we are going to be looking at a couple of different points of views in order to support reducing electricity usage. Okay, how? The first point would be definitely save our money. Okay, I think it's quite logical when you start reducing electricity usage, you can save your money. This is because the electricity usage at home can be up to 90% compared to other resources. Every single thing that you use, your light, your computer, your laptop, your handphone, requires electricity to actually work. So you can actually save money by reducing the usage of electricity. Next, you can give your alternatives. Okay, if you run out of points, you can give your alternatives. This is when facts, examples, and all your researches comes up. You can actually use things like, to reduce this phenomena, we can replace normal light bulb with energy efficient bulb. Okay, We can change normal light bulb, which takes so much of watts of power, to energy efficient bulb to save electricity. Same goes to other electrical appliances and so on. This can reduce the usage of electricity. Okay, this is when your facts comes up, makes your life and makes your speaking and writing component much more interesting to be heard and to be read. Okay, let's go to the second one. The second one, we can also, all right, electricity also causes what? It causes short circuit, right? This thing, many people know, short circuit and so on, which causes so much of trouble towards people and towards the towards yourself. Okay, now short circuit, we can actually avoid short circuit. Okay, when short circuit happens due to high consumption of electricity. So when you reduce electricity usage, it's very logical you can avoid short circuit. Okay, that is one of the most logical way. Now, the higher the currents, this is like a sentence for you guys to relate it. Okay, the higher the current, the more the energy loss. This thing we have learned in physics. The higher the current, the higher the energy loss. Okay, please bear in mind, English not only about your language. We have to talk on your various kinds of beautiful ideas that comes up in your mind. We can talk on physics, chemistry, biology, environment, finance, law, and so on. We have so many different aspects. This is what we are going to learn day by day in order to implement it in your writing and speaking component to make it very beautiful. Okay, now to avoid short circuit, we should actually, what can we do to avoid short circuit? Insulate. Okay, we can insulate and always check insulator for all of the wires used. Okay, so in order to avoid short circuit, you can actually insulate and check the insulator for all of the wires used. You guys can do research on this, just a small research, in order to add a more detailed explanation on how insulating actually would avoid short circuit. Make it a more detailed and beautiful view of it. Okay? Because too often that we hear right now, charging phones are actually exploding and catching fire and so on, which cause so much of trouble. Hence, we can avoid short circuit by reducing electricity usage. Okay, that is number three. Sorry, that is number two. Number three, we should reduce electrical or electricity usage because limited non-renewable resources. Okay? Okay, in Malaysia itself, electricity is generated from burning of fossil fuels. While in other countries, they are using unlimited resources or renewable energy, such as from the sun, wind, and tides. Okay, you can see in wind by using the wind energy, they are using it in Netherlands or Holland. Okay, so these kind of things should be reconsidered when using, because in Malaysia we're using it by burning of fossil fuels. We can also use it as hydroelectricity, where we have a couple of hydroelectricity stations in Malaysia to generate electricity. But in this point, we should highlight on burning of fossil fuels in generating electricity because fossil fuels is a non-renewable energy. Okay? Now, you guys know very well fossil fuels can actually cause pollution, right? When it can cause pollution, it can cause hazardous effect. And I think by now, you guys should be able to relate how limited non-renewable resources is being used. What do we use? Fossil fuels. When you burn fossil fuels, you get energy, but at the same time, it causes pollution. What does pollution cause? It causes hazardous effect to the environment and to humans itself. Then remember to relate back to the topic or your main point, which is reduce electricity usage. Okay, that is for candidate C or the third point. Now let's have a look at the fourth point, or candidate D. Okay, for candidate D, you'll be getting the point, reduce petroleum usage. Okay, you guys know very well petroleum. Okay, petroleum is one of the most used type of fuel or energy in order to make our vehicles move. Okay, now the first point, why do we actually reduce petroleum usage? We need to remember that petroleum is a non-renewable non-renewable resource, because petroleum, you guys know very well, we have very limited source because it is extracted from the deep sea, and sooner or later it will disappear. Okay, this is when you can use all your idioms, proverbs, and so on. I would use in the blink of an eye, which means very quickly. All right. Hence, we should actually reduce the petroleum usage. Okay, give your alternatives. One of the things that we can do to reduce petroleum usage is to discontinue. Okay, you can discontinue or stop or reduce usage of plastic, soap, and so on. Why? They are made up of petroleum too. Okay, don't only think about car. I do understand car is the most common examples of the usage of petroleum. Have a look at the chemistry side of it. Have a look at the more factual side of it for you guys to have a go to examples like plastic, soap, and so on to make sure you guys are creative enough, right? Okay. Okay, by doing this, by reducing petroleum usage, you won't be able to stop the you won't be able to stop petroleum from finishing. But what you can do, you can actually lengthen the duration of petroleum usage before it is all used up. Instead of finishing in 2 months, you can finish it up in 2 years. You lengthen the duration. It will end up finishing at one point. That's why you have to lengthen the duration of finishing. Okay, next. Number 2, you can actually, by reducing petroleum usage, you can reduce traffic jams. Okay, why do I say so? Reducing petroleum usage basically means you go for an alternative in the transportation sector. You can do carpooling instead. So instead of 4 cars or 4 different people using 4 liters of petroleum, we can use 1 car for 4 different people with 1 liter of petroleum. That's the logic behind it. Hence, there'll be lesser cars on driveways. Hence, it will reduce traffic jam. That is the logic behind of it. Okay, you guys have to know how to relate carpooling, know how to reduce the usage of cars and transportations in the transportation sector. Number 2, this is we can talk about personal. Okay. Number 2, we can also talk about public transport. Increase the usage of public transport instead. This is called an alternative. You give them an alternative in order to reduce petroleum usage. You use public transport. Let's say 100 people were to use public transport instead of their own cars. I do think that you can actually reduce petroleum usage by a ton of it. All right. Okay, that is number 2. Number 3, reducing petroleum usage can also lessen the pollution of environment. As you guys know, it is a non-renewable resources, and you guys know very well from experiments that we actually carry out in school that how much of an air pollution burning of petroleum can cause. Hence, it can reduce environmental pollution. That's why you guys can give alternatives. You guys know all these hybrid cars and electric cars that we guys use, Tesla, Toyota, and so on. We have so many different brands. You guys can give out your own facts, your own examples, real life examples, in order to strengthen your point and substantiate your point solidly. All right? Okay, guys. Please make sure you guys relate all these points after reading or speaking or writing each and every point. Please relate back to the main point in your writing, or speaking component in order to stay connected to the topic. All right. Okay, guys. I hope this helps you guys a lot in brainstorming and finding ideas and in order to look at things in different aspects. Okay. So I hope you guys enjoyed this session. Thank you very much.